better way to start the 12 days of history than to look where this month originates from. Of course, like for most things, we have to look back to the Romans. December draws its name from the Latin decem, which is Latin for 10. December quite literally means the 10th month. Although December today is the 12th month, before the use of the Julian calendar, January and February were not in use, making December the 10th and final month in the Roman year. In the UK, the use of the word December waned with the disappearance of the Romans, and was instead replaced by the Saxon name Gaola, which was used to describe the final stages in the year cycle, as is recorded in sources like Bede. But the use of the word December returned once again when the Normans invaded and lent French terms to the English language. In this case, the word December. The rest was history, and we still have used the term December ever since. The iconic landmark St. Paul's Cathedral has a long and rich history, tightly bound up with the tale of London. St. Paul's as a religious site was consecrated in 604 by Bishop Mellitus in the context of trying to convert the pagan Anglo-Saxons to Christianity. The church witnessed the power struggle between the Saxons and Vikings from the 9th century, even being destroyed by the Vikings in 962. The medieval Old St. Paul's was consecrated in 1240, after a 200-year building process delayed by financial and building problems. This stage of the building remained, withstanding the War of the Roses as well as the Reformation. The members of the Gunpowder Plot were even executed outside Old St. Paul's in 1606, but the Old St. Paul's Cathedral was famously destroyed in the Great Fire of London in 1666, after a bakery in Pudding Lane caught alight. The church was rebuilt in the building programme in London after the fire was over, headed by the famous architect Christopher Wren. The reason why I have decided to include this in the countdown is because St. Paul's was open again to the public on the 2nd of December 1697 and has ever since stood tall, a symbol of London's heritage. The infamous King John was born in December 1167 to Henry II of England and Eleanor of Aquitaine. As their youngest son, there was no reason for John to expect the crown, but John found himself pushed up in the line of succession when his two older brothers rebelled against their father and died. John still did not become king for a few years, because his elder brother Richard the Lionheart took the throne. John became king despite his rebellion against his brother eventually, in 1199, when Richard died. John is best remembered as a tyrant, known in history for his violence, viciousness, and greed. Some important events in his reign include losing possession of the French territories that England held, being excommunicated from the Catholic Church, and entering a civil war with his barons. John famously was forced to sign the Magna Carta by his barons in June 1215. John died in 1216, in a country still rife with civil war, and ever since he has been one of the most infamous villains in history. Having grown up in Pittsburgh in the 1900s, Sampson originally pursued a career in social work, but at the suggestion of her lecturer, she decided to pursue law instead. Sampson attended night classes at the John Marshall School of Law in Chicago to earn her degree. While she cared for her dead sister's children, Sampson then pursued a master's degree in law, being the first woman to receive one in 1927 from the Loyola University Law School in Chicago. After working in the law field for a number of years, Edith set up her own law practice in 1934, and by 1947 she gained the position of Assistant State Prosecutor for the Cook County, a province in Illinois. During her long career, Sampson also campaigned for the rights of black people and women, being part of many organisations, such as the NAACP and the League of Women Voters. After an incredible career in law, Edith became the first African-American female judge when she was elected for a position in the municipal court in Chicago. She was sworn in on the 3rd of December, 1962. In the court of 12th century England, an interesting figure performed around the festival of Christmas. Roland, a court minstrel, once a year performed his speciality: one jump, one whistle, and one fart, at the same time. This was the only time throughout the year that he performed, and he was rewarded for this handsomely, being given a 30-acre estate. He is said to have such a long career that he performed under both Henry I and Henry II, only to be dismissed under Henry III. Whilst it is unlikely that he lived that long, Roland's tricks still have stood the test of time. In December 1918, the UK Parliament held a general election, but it was significant for many reasons. It was the first election held since 1910, post-First World War, so the promises David Lloyd George had made to soldiers, like to build homes for heroes, would be a point of contention. What was most interesting about this election, however, was it was the first election that women could vote in officially, with the Representation of the People's Act coming into force. It is important to note that most women still could not vote, because the Act only gave votes to women who were over 30, who owned property, and who were married. But it was significant still, because it was a step in the right direction. What was also extraordinary about this election was the first female MP was elected. Constance Markievicz was a female suffragette and Irish nationalist who participated in the Easter Rising against British rule in Ireland. She was imprisoned for this, but still was elected for Sinn Féin. Her election was part of a bigger trend in Ireland for the election of Sinn Féin, who won 73 seats. Constance Markievicz and the other MPs, however, did not take their seats in protest. The election was a landslide, however, for David Lloyd George and his Liberal coalition, who won more time in office. The story begins in 892, when the Carolingian Emperor Arnulf utilised the Magyar people as mercenaries against the rebellious Duke Svatopluk. Under their chosen leader Arpad, the Magyars made their way across the Carpathians and forged a territory for themselves. They stayed on in the region and continued to act as mercenaries and raided in other territories. Over time, however, the Magyar became a target for conversion for both the Latin and Orthodox Christians, and slowly some of the Magyars converted. This especially happened under the Dukeship of Geza, Arpad's great-grandchild, who forged close ties with Emperor Otto II after he married his daughter and converted to Christianity in 974. His son further attempted to establish closer ties with Christian Europe and integrate himself into it. He married a Bavarian princess, got rid of internal rivals, and applied to the Pope for the insignia of royalty. His claim was accepted, and he was crowned in December 1000, some say on Christmas Day.